I never told my wife that I own 75% of her father's company. For 8 years of marriage, I've watched Richard Blackwood parade around as the self-made billionaire CEO while I played the role of the struggling middle-class husband who married up. But yesterday, when he walked into our home and offered me $50 million to divorce his daughter and disappear from her life, I realized something had to change. What Richard doesn't know is that I'm not just his son-in-law. I'm his majority shareholder, silent partner, and the reason his $1.4 billion empire still exists. And what I discovered in the next 48 hours would expose a family secret so dark, it would destroy everything the Blackwoods had built. Comment below where you're watching from and what time is it there, because what happened next changed not just my life, but revealed a truth about wealth, family, and revenge that still keeps me up at night. Let me take you back to where this all started. Thursday evening, October 19th, 2023. Our home in Westchester County, New York. The kind of modest four-bedroom colonial that screams, comfortable but not wealthy. Emma, my wife, was upstairs putting our 6-year-old daughter Sophia to bed. I was in my home office, reviewing quarterly reports for what Emma believed was my consulting job. The doorbell rang at exactly 7:47 p.m. I remember the time because I've been tracking market close numbers for Blackwood Industries. Through the security camera, I saw Richard Blackwood standing on my porch. Not unusual. He dropped by occasionally to see his granddaughter. But something about his posture felt wrong. Too rigid. Too purposeful. I opened the door. "Richard, Emma didn't mention you were coming by. She doesn't know I'm here." He stepped inside without invitation, his $5,000 Italian shoes clicking on our hardwood floors. "We need to talk. Man to man." For 8 years, I played the role perfectly. The humble financial consultant who'd somehow won the heart of Manhattan royalty. The guy who drove a 5-year-old Honda while my wife had a Range Rover. The son-in-law who nodded politely at country club dinners while Richard told stories about building his chemical manufacturing empire from nothing. "Sure," I said, leading him to my office. "Everything okay?" Richard closed the door behind him. His face, usually composed in that practiced EO manner, looked strained. At 68, he still maintained the appearance of power. Silver hair, perfectly styled, tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. But tonight, I saw something I'd never seen before. Desperation. "I'm going to be direct, Marcus." He sat at my desk chair, a power move, taking my seat. "My daughter deserves better than this." He gestured around my modest office. "Better than a husband who works from home in a house that barely breaks 7 figures." I felt my jaw tighten, but I kept my expression neutral. "Emma seems happy. Emma's settled." His words were surgical, designed to cut. "She was 29, worried about her biological clock, and you were safe. Steady. The kind of dependable mediocrity that looked like stability. 8 years. 8 years of this man's condescension. 8 years of watching him treat me like I was lucky to breathe the same air as his daughter. "Why are you here, Richard?" He pulled out a checkbook. Literally, a checkbook. Old money loves their theatrical gestures. "I'm here to offer you a solution. $50 million. He started writing, the scratch of pen on paper obscenely loud in the quiet room. "You divorce Emma quietly. No custody fight over Sophia. You move out of state, California, maybe. Start over. $50 million is more money than a man like you would make in 10 lifetimes. My heart was hammering, but I kept my voice level. "You're offering me money to abandon my wife and daughter. I'm offering you a fortune to stop holding my daughter back." He tore the check out, held it up. $50 million, made out to Marcus Chun. Emma is 37 now. She could still remarry, have more children with someone appropriate. Someone from our world. "You're a good man, Marcus, but you're not one of us. You never will be." I stared at that check. $50 million. To most people, it would be life-changing money. To Richard Blackwood, it was a rounding error. To me, it was insulting. And if I say no, his expression hardened. "Then I make things difficult. Your consulting business depends on references, doesn't it? Reputation? I have friends in every major firm in this country. I can make sure work dries up. I can make your life very uncomfortable." There it was, the threat underneath the offer. Take the money and disappear, or be destroyed. I stood up slowly, walked to my file cabinet, and pulled out a folder I'd kept locked away for 8 years. Inside were documents that would change this conversation completely. But I wasn't ready to show them yet. Not until I understood what was really happening. "I need time to think about it," I said. Richard stood, placed a check on my desk. "You have 48 hours. After that, the offer drops to 25 million, and the threats become actions." He walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, Marcus, I actually don't hate you. I just love my daughter more than I respect you." After he left, I sat in darkness for a long time, holding that check. Upstairs, I could hear Emma reading Sophia a bedtime story. My wife's voice, gentle and patient, reading about a princess who didn't need rescuing. Emma had no idea who I really was. No idea that the man she'd married wasn't struggling at all. No idea that her self-made billionaire father had been days away from bankruptcy when we met, and that I was the one who'd saved him. I pulled out my phone and made a call. "David, it's Marcus. I need you to dig into Richard Blackwood. Everything. I want to know why he's really doing this." David Wood had been my friend since MIT. Now he was one of the best private investigators in the country. "I thought you were keeping the Blackwood thing quiet." That was before Richard tried to buy me out of my own family. "Something's wrong. People don't offer $50 million unless they're desperate." "Give me 24 hours, David said. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and accessed files I hadn't looked at in years. The real story of how Marcus Chun, a 29-year-old venture capitalist, had met Emma Blackwood at a charity gala in 2015. What Emma knew: we'd met, fallen in love, and married within a year despite her father's reservations about my modest income. What Emma didn't know: 3 months before that gala, Blackwood Industries had been leveraged to the breaking point. Richard had made a series of catastrophic investments in a failed biotech venture. The company was $400 million in debt, and creditors were circling. Richard was 90 days from losing everything: the company, the Manhattan penthouse, the Hamptons estate, the carefully constructed image of success. I'd seen the opportunity. Blackwood Industries had solid fundamentals underneath Richard's mismanagement. The chemical manufacturing patents alone were worth billions if properly leveraged. So, I made Richard an offer through a shell corporation, $500 million in immediate capital injection in exchange for 75% equity. He'd retain CEO title and public face, but I'd own the majority position. Richard had been desperate enough to take it. The deal was structured through so many legal layers that even forensic accountants would struggle to trace it back to me. As far as the world knew, Blackwood Industries had secured private equity funding from overseas investors. I'd saved his empire, and then I'd married his daughter, genuinely in love with Emma, but never revealing my true financial position. Why? Because I'd grown up watching my father, a successful tech entrepreneur, marry 3 times. Each time to a woman who loved his money more than him. I'd seen the prenups, the divorces, the gold diggers. When I met Emma, I wanted to know she loved me for me, not for my net worth. So I played poor, or at least middle class, lived within consultant income while my actual wealth, managed through trusts and investment vehicles, grew exponentially. Now Richard wanted to pay me $50 million of what was essentially my own money to disappear from my family's life. The question was why. Upstairs, I heard Emma's footsteps. She appeared in my office doorway, beautiful in casual clothes, her dark hair pulled back. At 37, she looked almost the same as when we'd met. Maybe a few more lines around her eyes, but they were laugh lines. Happy marriage lines. "Hey, I thought I heard the doorbell earlier. Was someone here?" I closed my laptop. "Just a delivery. Nothing important." She studied my face. 8 years of marriage had made her good at reading me. "You look stressed. Everything okay with work?" "Yeah, just a complicated client situation. Nothing to worry about." She crossed the room, wrapped her arms around me from behind. "You work too hard. Come to bed. Sophia's finally asleep." I turned, pulled her close. "I love you. You know that, right?" She laughed softly. "Where's this coming from?" "Of course I know that. I love you too, weirdo." As I held my wife, I thought about Richard's check sitting in my desk drawer. $50 million to walk away from this moment. From this woman who chose me when she could have had anyone. From my daughter upstairs, who thought I was a hero because I could make her pancakes in funny shapes. Richard Blackwood had made a critical mistake. He'd assumed I was powerless, that I needed his money, feared his influence. He was about to learn otherwise. But first, I needed to understand why. Why now? After 8 years, was he desperate enough to make this move? The answer came at 3:47 a.m. when my phone buzzed with a message from David. Call me immediately. You need to hear this. I slipped out of bed carefully, went downstairs, and dialed. David answered on the first ring. Marcus, what the hell have you gotten yourself into? What did you find? Richard Blackwood is being blackmailed. Has been for 6 months. Someone has evidence of fraud, backdating contracts, bribing EPA officials, falsifying safety reports. If it goes public, he doesn't just lose the company. He goes to prison. My blood went cold. How much are they asking? That's the thing. They're not asking for money. They want Blackwood Industries itself. They're demanding he sign over control of the company to them, or they release everything to the SEC and FBI. When? Deadline is Monday. 3 days from now. Suddenly, Richard's offer made terrible sense. He wasn't trying to get rid of me out of snobbery. He was trying to protect Emma. There's more, David continued. The blackmailer knows about your ownership stake. They specifically mention in their communications that Richard doesn't actually control the company. They know you're the majority shareholder, Marcus, and they want Richard to deliver you. The room spun around me. They want me to sign over my shares. Richard's supposed to deliver your cooperation by Monday, or they destroy him. The $50 million isn't a payment to divorce Emma. It's a bribe to sign over your 75% stake. He's not just offering you money. He's offering you a way out before this whole thing explodes. I sat down heavily. Who's behind this? Still working on it. But Marcus? Whoever they are, they've done their homework. They know everything. Your shell corporations, your MIT connections, your entire financial structure. This is sophisticated, professional. After I hung up, I sat in my dark living room, processing. Someone had spent months, maybe years, uncovering secrets that were supposed to be untraceable. They knew I was the real power behind Blackwood Industries. They knew Richard was vulnerable. And they were using both facts to orchestrate a corporate takeover that would leave Richard in prison and me. What? Also exposed? Also vulnerable? At 7:30 a.m., Emma came downstairs and found me still sitting there. Marcus? Did you sleep at all? Not much. Couldn't shut my brain off. She made coffee, studying me with concern. Is this about my father? I saw his car in the driveway last night through the window. You said it was a delivery, but that was his Bentley, wasn't it? I looked at my wife, this woman I'd built a life with while keeping the biggest secret of our marriage. In 48 hours, Richard expected an answer. In 3 days, his blackmailer would make their move. It was time to stop playing roles. Emma, sit down. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you years ago. She set down her coffee cup, face pale. Oh God, are you sick? Are you dying? No, nothing like that. I took her hand. I'm not who you think I am. Financially, I mean. That consulting business? It's real, but it's not my only income. Emma, I'm wealthy. Very wealthy. She laughed uncertainly. What are you talking about? Marcus, we budget for groceries. Because I wanted to. Because I wanted us to live a normal life. Because I want to know you loved me, not my money. I pulled out my laptop, opened files I'd never shown her. 8 years ago, your father's company was bankrupt. I bought it. 75% of Blackwood Industries. I own it, Emma. I'm not your father's poor son-in-law. I'm his majority shareholder. I'm his boss. She stared at the documents, her face cycling through confusion, disbelief, then something harder. You've been lying to me for 8 years. Not lying, just not telling the whole truth. Emma, when we met, I'd watched my father's third marriage implode over money. I dated women who saw dollar signs instead of me. When I met you, you were genuine, kind. You didn't care that I drove a Honda or lived in a rental apartment. I fell in love with that. With you. So you played poor? You let me think we were struggling while you're secretly wealthy. Her voice was rising. I've been clipping coupons, Marcus. I drive Sophia to public school to save on private tuition. I've been living like we're one emergency away from financial trouble, and you're a secret billionaire. Not a billionaire, but yes, wealthy enough that we never had to worry. I'm sorry. I know how this sounds. She stood up, pacing. Why are you telling me this now? Because your father came here last night to offer me $50 million to divorce you. Emma froze. What? I told her everything. Richard's offer, the threats, what David had discovered about the blackmail. I watched my wife's face transform as she realized her perfect father, her self-made billionaire hero, was not only a fraud but also desperate enough to try to buy off her husband. My father tried to bribe you to leave me? Her voice was barely a whisper. He's being blackmailed, Emma. Someone wants control of the company, and they know I'm the real owner. Richard's trying to protect you the only way he knows how, by getting me out of the picture before everything explodes. Protect me? She laughed bitterly. By destroying my marriage? By offering my husband money to abandon his family? Tears were streaming down her face now. And you've been lying to me our entire marriage. Living some elaborate test to see if I was a gold digger. It wasn't a test. I just wanted a normal life. I wanted us to be real. Real. She grabbed her keys. I don't even know what's real anymore. I need to think. I'm taking Sophia to my mother's. Emma, wait. No. You've had 8 years to tell me the truth, Marcus. You don't get to explain it away in one morning. She headed for the stairs, then turned back. Did you ever plan to tell me? Or was this just going to be your secret forever? I had no good answer for that. After Emma left with Sophia, I sat in the emptiness of our house and made a decision. If someone was targeting my family, using Richard's secrets and my hidden ownership to orchestrate a takeover, then it was time to stop hiding. I called Richard. We need to meet. My office. Downtown. 1 hour. Marcus, have you thought about my offer? I've thought about a lot of things. 1 hour. Richard. Come alone. My consulting office was actually a modest suite in a midtown high-rise. What Richard didn't know was that 2 floors up, I maintained my real office, the headquarters of Chun Capital Management, a private equity firm managing $8 billion in assets. Richard arrived exactly on time, looking haggard. He probably hadn't slept either. Have you made a decision? He asked. I slid his check back across the desk. I'm not taking your money, Richard, and I'm not signing over my shares. But I do know about the blackmail. His face went white. Ow! Because I'm not the simple consultant you think I am. I'm a lot of things you don't know about, including the person who saved your company 8 years ago. I pulled out the original acquisition documents, watched his confusion slowly morph into horror as he realized what he was reading. You're the overseas investor? There was no overseas investor. It was me. I bought 75% of your company for $500 million when you were 90 days from bankruptcy. I saved you, Richard, and then I married your daughter because I loved her, not because of her last name or your fake billions. He collapsed into a chair, the check fluttering to the floor. You've owned my company this whole time. Yes, and now someone else wants it. Someone who's been digging into your past and found all the illegal things you did to try to save it before I came along. The EPA bribes? The falsified safety reports? That was all you, Richard. I was desperate. The company was everything. I couldn't lose it. And now your crimes are being used to blackmail you into giving up a company you don't actually own. I leaned forward. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything about this blackmailer. Who they are, what they have, how they contacted you. And then you and I are going to deal with this together. Why would you help me? His voice was broken. I tried to bribe you to abandon my daughter. Because despite being a snob and a criminal, you're still Emma's father. And Sophia's grandfather. And like it or not, we're family. So talk. For the next hour, Richard told me everything. The blackmail had started 6 months ago with a letter delivered to his office. No return address, but contained copies of documents that should have been destroyed years ago. Contracts he'd backdated to avoid penalties, emails arranging bribes to EPA officials, falsified lab reports on chemical safety tests. The blackmailer had given him time to get his affairs in order. Then 2 weeks ago, they'd made their demand. Sign over complete control of Blackwood Industries, or face federal prosecution. They knew I didn't actually control the company, Richard said. They knew about your ownership stake. They said I had to deliver your cooperation, or they'd release everything not just to the SEC, but to the press. My reputation would be destroyed. I'd go to prison. And you thought offering me money to divorce Emma would somehow solve this? I thought if you took the money and left, maybe you'd sign over the shares as part of the divorce settlement. I could give the blackmailer what they wanted, and Emma would be free of the whole mess. She could move on, find someone better. Better than the man who actually owns the company her father pretends to run. He flinched. I didn't know that 8 years ago. No, 8 years ago, you just knew I wasn't good enough for your daughter because I didn't come from money. I stood up. Here's what I don't understand. Who's behind this? Who has the resources and knowledge to uncover both your crimes and my hidden ownership? I don't know. All communication has been through anonymous letters and encrypted emails. Where are these letters? The emails. Richard pulled out his phone, forwarded me several messages. I opened them, studying the language and syntax. Professional, but with odd phrasings that felt familiar somehow. That's when I noticed something in the metadata. A tiny digital fingerprint in the email headers that most people would miss. But I'd spent years in tech investing, working with cybersecurity firms. I knew that fingerprint. I'd seen that exact coding signature before. Marcus? What is it? I was already dialing David. I need you to run a name for me. Check their financial situation, recent activity, any connection to Blackwood Industries. Ooh, I said the name and watched Richard's face drain of color. No, he whispered. That's impossible. But it wasn't impossible. It was actually the only thing that made sense. The blackmailer wasn't a stranger. It was someone who'd been close enough to Richard to know his secrets. Someone who'd watched me marry Emma and had years to investigate my background. Someone who had both motive and means. It was Victoria Blackwood, Richard's sister, Emma's aunt. David called back 20 minutes later with confirmation. Victoria's been liquidating assets for 6 months. She's assembled a consortium of investors ready to acquire Blackwood Industries the moment Richard steps down. Marcus, she's not trying to extort the company. She's planning a hostile takeover using Richard's crimes as leverage. I'll put the phone on speaker. Tell Richard what you found about Victoria's investors. 3 private equity firms, all known for aggressive acquisition strategies. Combined assets of about $12 billion. They're positioned to take over-the-moment control transfers. Victoria's arranged to be installed as CEO with a significant equity stake. Richard looked like he might vomit. Victoria? My own sister. Your own sister who you forced out of the company 15 years ago, I said. Because you didn't think a woman could run Blackwood Industries. Did you forget that part? That was different. I bought out her stake fairly. For $20 million when it was worth 10 times that. Then you built a billion-dollar empire on her ideas while she watched from the sidelines. How long did you think she'd stay quiet? The pieces were falling into place. Victoria Blackwood was brilliant. I'd met her at several family events over the years. She had an MBA from Harvard, years of industry experience, and a legitimate grievance against her brother. She'd been patient, methodical, gathering evidence of Richard's crimes while simultaneously investigating me. She knew that I was the real power behind Blackwood Industries. She knew Richard was vulnerable, and she crafted a plan that would destroy her brother while positioning herself to finally claim what she believed should have been hers all along. We need to go to the FBI, Richard said. She's blackmailing me. That's illegal. And you bribed EPA officials, falsified safety reports, and committed securities fraud. You really want to open that door? I shook my head. No, go to the authorities destroys everyone, including Emma. So what do? I smiled. We do what Victoria doesn't expect. We give her what she wants. You're going to let her take my company? Your company? Richard, it's my company. And I'm going to make her a deal she can't refuse. Over the next 36 hours, I put together a plan that would either save us all or destroy everything. But first, I had to deal with the mess in my own house. Emma hadn't returned my calls. She and Sophia were staying at her mother's estate in Connecticut. Friday morning, I drove up there uninvited. Catherine Blackwood answered the door. Emma's mother, elegant and cold as always. Marcus, I don't think you're welcome here. I need to talk to Emma. Please. My daughter is upstairs trying to explain to her 6-year-old why they're suddenly living at Grandma's house. You've done enough damage. Catherine, there are things happening that affect this whole family. Things Emma needs to know. Not just about me, but about Richard, about Victoria. Victoria? Her expression shifted. What does Richard's sister have to do with this? Everything. Please, I need 5 minutes with Emma. Catherine studied me for a long moment, then stepped aside. She's in the garden. I found Emma sitting by her mother's koi pond, watching the fish circle endlessly in their small universe. She didn't look up when I approached. I'm sorry, I said, for lying, for testing you, for building our entire marriage on a foundation of deception. Is that supposed to make it better? No, nothing makes it better. But Emma, I need you to understand something. When I met you, I was terrified of being used for money. My father's marriages had taught me that wealth destroys genuine connection. So yes, I hid mine. I want to know you loved me. The person, not the portfolio. And you never thought to trust me with the truth? Even after we got married? After we had Sophia? I thought about it every day. But the longer I waited, the harder it became. How do you tell your wife of 5 years that you've been secretly wealthy? That her father's company is actually yours? There was never a right time. She finally looked at me. My father tried to buy you off, to pay you to leave me, because he's being blackmailed, because someone wants the company and they're using his crimes to take it. Your father's not the self-made success story he pretends to be, Emma. He's a fraud who committed actual crimes, and now it's all catching up to him. Who's blackmailing him? Your Aunt Victoria? Emma's eyes widened. Aunt Vicky? That's impossible. She's been out of the business for years. Because Richard forced her out, bought her shares for a fraction of their value, and built an empire on her ideas. She's been planning revenge for 15 years, and she's finally making her move. I sat down beside her, not touching but close. In 48 hours, Victoria's deadline hits. If Richard doesn't sign over control, she releases evidence of his crimes to the FBI. He goes to prison, the company collapses, and your family name becomes synonymous with corporate fraud. And you can stop this? I can try. But Emma, I need to know if we're okay first. If there's a marriage to save, or if I should just focus on protecting you and Sophia from the fallout. She was quiet for a long time, watching the koi circle. I'm angry at you. I'm furious that you lied for 8 years. But I also know something about you that my father's money-obsessed family never saw. What's that? You're a good father. You coach Sophia's soccer team, even though you know nothing about soccer. You make her pancakes shaped like dinosaurs every Saturday. You remember every single thing she tells you, even the boring kid stuff about playground drama. She turned to me. Whatever else you lied about, you didn't lie about loving us. Never. That was the only real thing. Then fix this. Fix whatever my father broke. Protect Sophia from the fallout. And after that, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about trust and honesty in our marriage. Deal. She stood up. I'm still not coming home yet. I need time. But Marcus? Don't let Aunt Victoria destroy my father. Whatever his faults, he's still my dad. I nodded. I'll handle it. As I drove back to Westchester, I finalized the plan that would end Victoria's revenge plot while simultaneously restructuring the entire power dynamic of the Blackwood family empire. Saturday morning, I sent Victoria Blackwood an invitation to meet at a neutral location, a conference room at my law firm in Manhattan. The message was simple. I know what you're planning. Let's talk before Monday. She arrived at 10 a.m. sharp, looking exactly like the corporate predator she'd become. At 63, Victoria Blackwood was sharp, elegant, and utterly ruthless. Marcus Chun, Richard's disappointing son-in-law. She sat down across from me. I assume you're here to beg me not to destroy your father-in-law. Actually, I'm here to offer you a better deal than the one you've been planning. I don't need deals. I have evidence of federal crimes. By Monday, Richard loses everything. Richard loses everything. But you don't get Blackwood Industries. I slid a folder across the table. Because Richard doesn't own Blackwood Industries. I do. She opened the folder, her confidence faltering as she read the acquisition documents. This is impossible. The company was bought by overseas investors. The overseas investors were me. I bought 75% of your brother's company 8 years ago when he was bankrupt from his own incompetence. I saved his empire, Victoria. And then I married his daughter without telling anyone I was secretly his boss. Why? Because I wanted a normal life. Because I didn't want to be treated like a walking ATM. Because I fell in love with Emma and wanted to know it was real. I leaned forward. But now you forced my hand. So here's my counteroffer. I pulled out another document. I'm removing Richard as CEO effective immediately. He'll retain a ceremonial board position and a generous pension, but he's done running the company. You were right about one thing. He's incompetent and criminal, and Blackwood Industries deserves better leadership. And you think you're that leadership? No, I think you are. Let's stop her cold. What? Victoria, I've researched you. Harvard MBA, 20 years of industry experience, brilliant strategic mind. You should have been running Blackwood Industries all along. Richard was wrong to force you out. So I'm offering you the CEO position. In exchange for what? In exchange for dropping the blackmail. For not destroying Richard publicly. For protecting Emma and Sophia from this scandal. I slid across employment terms. 5-year contract. Full operational control. 20% equity stake that vests over 10 years. And the satisfaction of finally running the company that should have been yours. She studied the documents. Why would you do this? Why not let me destroy Richard? Because Emma loves her father despite his flaws. Because Sophia shouldn't have to explain why her grandfather is in prison. And because honestly, Victoria, you're the best person for this job. I'm a venture capitalist, not a chemical manufacturer. Richard defraud. But you know this industry. You have the vision to take Blackwood Industries into the next decade. And Richard just accepts this? Steps aside quietly. Richard accepts it because the alternative is federal prison. I'm giving him an out, a graceful retirement where he saves face publicly while privately understanding he's lost everything. Pride or freedom, Victoria. Which do you think he'll choose? She was quiet for a long time, reading through the contract terms. You're serious. You're actually offering me the company. I'm offering you the job you should have had 15 years ago. What you do with it is up to you. But Victoria, if you take this deal, the blackmail ends. All evidence of Richard's crimes gets destroyed. We move forward, not backward. And if I refuse, then you release your evidence. Richard goes to prison. The company collapses in the scandal, and nobody wins. You get revenge, but you don't get the empire. It's ashes. Is that what you really want? She looked at me with new understanding. You're not what I expected. Emma married better than I thought. Is that a yes? Victoria Blackwood smiled. A real smile, not the predatory one from earlier. It's a yes. When do I start? Monday morning. We'll make the announcement as a routine succession plan. Richard's stepping down to enjoy retirement. You're returning to lead the company into its next phase. No scandal, no FBI investigation, just business. She signed a contract. Marcus Chun, you've managed to do what I thought was impossible. What's that? Make everyone in this family happy while also screwing us all over. She laughed. Richard loses his company, but stays out of prison. I get the CEO position, but have to give up my revenge. And you finally get to stop pretending to be poor while actually running everything from the shadows. Something like that. What about Emma? Have you told her yet that her entire family is a house of cards you've been holding up? Working on it. Victoria stood, extended her hand. For what it's worth, I'm glad Emma married you. She could have done worse. She could have married someone like her father. After she left, I sat alone in the conference room and called Richard. It's done. Victoria's taking over as CEO Monday. You're announcing retirement. Just like that? She agreed. I made her an offer better than revenge. You should try it sometime. I paused. Richard, you're keeping your freedom and a comfortable retirement. But you need to understand something. The only reason you're not in federal prison right now is because I protected you. Not for you, for Emma and Sophia. Don't make me regret it. I understand. Do you? Because here's how this works going forward. You're going to be a present grandfather. You're going to treat Emma like the intelligent woman she is, not a decorative daughter. And you're going to stop being a snob to everyone who isn't from your tax bracket. Think you can manage that? A long silence. Then, quietly, I'll try. That's all I'm asking. Monday morning's press conference was textbook corporate succession. Richard Blackwood, looking distinguished and statesmanlike, announced his retirement after 40 years of building Blackwood Industries into a global leader. Victoria Blackwood, his younger sister and secret weapon, would be taking over as CEO to lead the company into an exciting new era. The financial press ate it up. Wall Street Journal called it a smooth generational transition. Forbes ran a profile on Victoria titled, "The Blackwood Who Got Away," and came back stronger. Nobody knew about the blackmail, the crimes, or the secret ownership structure that had made it all possible. Emma and Sophia came home that evening. My daughter ran to me, wrapping small arms around my legs. "Daddy, I missed you." "Missed you too, dinosaur." I picked her up. "Want to help me make pancakes for dinner?" "Pancakes for dinner? Are we celebrating?" "Yeah, we're celebrating. Celebrating being together." After Sophia was asleep, Emma and I finally talked. Really talked. About the lies, the secrets, the 8 years of deception masked as protection. "I'm still angry," she said. "I'm angry that you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth." "I know, and you have every right to be. But I also understand why you did it. My family. We're not exactly known for loving people for who they are versus what they're worth." She smiled sadly. "My father tried to buy you off. That tells you everything about how the Blackwoods view marriage. You're not your father." "No, but I grew up in that world. The world where everything has a price tag and everyone has an angle. I get why you wanted to escape it." She took my hand. "I wish you trusted me sooner. But I understand. So where does that leave us?" "It leaves us here, together. But Marcus? No more secrets. About anything. Money, business, family, all of it. We're partners, or we're nothing." "Partners," I agreed. "Full transparency from now on. Starting with this. How much are we actually worth?" I pulled up my financial statements on my laptop. Watched her eyes widen as she scrolled through the numbers. "Marcus, this is a lot." "Yes. We could buy a mansion, private schools, luxury cars. We could. Do you want to?" She thought about it. "No. I like our house. I like our life. But maybe we could stop budgeting for groceries like we're one emergency away from bankruptcy." I laughed. "Yeah, we can do that." 6 months later, life had found a new normal. Victoria was thriving as CEO, implementing changes Richard never would have considered. The company's stock price had jumped 40% under her leadership. Richard had indeed become a more present grandfather. Every Saturday, he came by for pancake breakfast with Sophia. He was learning to cook, which was hilarious and touching. The man who'd spent 40 years having private chefs was now burning eggs in my kitchen while his granddaughter giggled. Emma and I were rebuilding trust slowly. She'd started taking an active role in understanding our finances, sitting in on meetings with our wealth managers. Turns out my wife had inherited her aunt's business acumen. She was brilliant at long-term strategic planning. "What if we started a foundation?" she suggested one evening. "Use some of this wealth for something meaningful?" "Like what?" "Financial literacy programs. Teaching people from working-class backgrounds how to navigate wealth without losing themselves. Kids who make it out of poverty need to know they don't have to fake being poor to prove they're still real." It was the perfect idea. The Marcus and Emma Chan Foundation launched 3 months later, funding financial education programs across the country. On Thanksgiving, the whole family gathered at our house. Richard, Catherine, Victoria, Emma, Sophia, and me. Victoria raised a glass. To new beginnings. And to Marcus, who managed to fix a broken family while pretending to be broke himself. Everyone laughed. Even Richard smiled, though it was the sheepish smile of a man who knew he'd underestimated his son-in-law catastrophically. After dinner, Richard pulled me aside. "I owe you an apology. A real one. I judged you for 8 years based on what I thought you weren't. I never bothered to see who you actually were. You were protecting your daughter. I get it. No, I was being a snob. There's a difference." He shook his head. $50 million. I actually thought that would be enough to make you walk away from Emma and Sophia. Shows how little I understood about wealth that really matters. For what it's worth, Richard, you're a better grandfather than you were a father-in-law. I'm working on it. He glanced at Sophia, who was showing Victoria a drawing she'd made. That little girl deserves better than my mistakes. That night, lying in bed next to Emma, I thought about the strange journey that had brought us here. I'd hidden my wealth to find authentic love. Richard had hidden his crimes to maintain fake success. Victoria had hidden her resentment while planning revenge. We'd all been wearing masks, playing roles, afraid to show our true selves. "What are you thinking about?" Emma asked. "How money makes everyone a liar, including me." Past tense. Made you a liar. You're done with that now, right? Completely done. Full transparency. Actually, there's one more thing I should probably mention. She propped herself up on one elbow, eyebrow raised. "Marcus Chun, if you tell me you secretly own Apple or something." "No, nothing like that. I've been thinking about Sophia's college fund." "What about it?" "Well, I set it up 8 years ago when she was born. It's got about $8 million in it now." $8 million? For college. She might want to go to grad school. Maybe start a business. Have options. Emma started laughing. Actually laughing. We've been saving $50 a month to her $529 plan like responsible middle-class parents. And there's $8 million sitting in an account somewhere. I like the ritual of the monthly deposits. It feels normal. She kissed me. "You're insane. You're an insane person who pretended to be middle class for 8 years while secretly running a billion-dollar empire. Technically $1.4 billion now. Victoria's been doing great work. Shut up and kiss me, you ridiculous man." I did. And for the first time in 8 years, there were no secrets between us. No hidden wealth, no concealed ownership, no masks. Just Marcus and Emma Chun, partners in every sense, building a life that was finally, honestly, completely real. Looking back now, I understand what Richard got wrong when he offered me that $50 million check. He thought money could buy anything, even the destruction of a family. He never understood that the most valuable things in life are the ones that can't be purchased. Emma chose me when she thought I was ordinary. Sophia loves me because I make dinosaur pancakes, not because of my bank account. And the respect I've earned from Victoria and even Richard came from my actions, not my net worth. If this story teaches anything, it's this. Wealth hidden is just fear wearing an expensive suit. And families built on money instead of trust are empires waiting to crumble. Richard learned that lesson the hard way. I learned it while pretending to be someone I wasn't. Maybe we both needed to lose everything. Him his fake empire, me my false identity, before we could find what actually mattered. These days, I'm teaching Sophia about money. Not how to hide it or worship it, but how to use it as a tool, not an identity. She knows we're fortunate. She also knows that fortune means responsibility. Last week, she asked me, "Daddy, are we rich?" Yes, we're rich. But we don't act like those rich people on TV. Because being rich is about what you have. Being good is about what you do with it. She thought about that. I think I want to be both. Rich and good. That's my girl. So that's my story. The story of how I hid my wealth, saved my father-in-law's empire, stopped a family war, and almost lost my marriage in the process. It's messy and complicated, and I made plenty of mistakes along the way. But I'd do it all again. Because those mistakes led me here, to a Thanksgiving dinner with a family that's finally honest with each other, to a wife who knows all my secrets and loves me anyway, to a daughter who understands that money is a tool, not a measure of worth. Richard Blackwood offered me $50 million to walk away from this. Thank God I was already richer than he ever knew. Not because of the money, but because of everything money can't buy. Your turn. Comment below. Have you ever hidden something from your family to protect them? Or discovered a secret that changed everything? Where are you watching from? And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories about family, money, and the complicated truth that lies between them.